The Industrial Revolution was the transition to new manufacturing processes in Great Britain, continental Europe, and the United States that occurred during the period from around 1760 to about 1820 to 1840. This transition included going from hand production methods to machines, new chemical manufacturing and iron production processes, the increasing use of steam power and water power, the development of machine tools, and the rise of mechanized work factory system. Output greatly increased, and a result was an unprecedented rise in population and in the rate of population growth. Textiles were the dominant industry of Industrial Revolution in terms of employment, value of output and capital invested. The textile industry was also the first to use the modern production methods. The Industrial Revolution began in Great Britain, and many of the technological and architectural innovations were of British origin. By the mid-18th century, Britain was the world's leading commercial nation, controlling a global trading empire with colonies in North America and the Caribbean. Britain had major military and political hegemony on the Indian subcontinent, particularly with the proto-industrialized Mughal Bengal through the activities of the East India Company. The development of trade and the rise of business were among the major causes of the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution marked a major turning point in history. In this presentation, we are going to see some of the innovations that took place during the Industrial Revolution. Spinning jenny. The spinning jenny is a multi-spindle spinning frame and was one of the key developments in the industrialization of textile manufacturing during the early Industrial Revolution. It was invented in 1764 or 1765 by James Hargreaves in Stanhill, Ostwells, Lancashire in England. The device reduced the amount of work needed to produce cloth, with a worker able to work 8 or more spools at once. This grew to 120 as technology advanced. The yarn produced by it was not strong until Arkwright invented water power water frame. Arkwright's improved spinning machine. Improved spinning machine was invented by Richard Arkwright in 1775. These spinning machines were driven by water power at Arkwright's Cromford Mill. Hence the name of water frame is given to the machine. The machine is capable of spinning stronger threads. Cartwright's weaving loom. In 1785, Cartwright invented a power loom. This machine could be run by bullocks or horses. Later, water power was used to operate it. Since factories were being set up along rivers, water was available in plenty to operate the machines. Newcomen's steam engine. In 1712, Thomas Newcomen invented the first steam engine known as the atmospheric engine. It was used predominantly to pump water out from coal mines, allowing the miners to dig further down. The engine burned coal to create steam, which operated the steam pump pushing a movable piston. It was made in its hundreds throughout the 18th century. This was an improvement on a crude steam-powered machine built by fellow Englishman Thomas Savery, whose 1698 machine had no moving parts. It was, however, still dreadful inefficient. It required huge amounts of coal to function. Newcomen's design would be improved by James Watt. Watt's steam engine. Scottish engineer James Watt invented the first practical steam engine in 1763. Watt's engine was very similar to Newcomen's, but it was nearly twice as efficient as it required less fuel to run. This more fuel-efficient design translated into huge monetary savings for the industry, and Newcomen's original atmospheric steam engines were later converted to Watt's new design. It was introduced commercially in 1776 and became the basis for future developments that saw the steam engine become the main source of power for a large variety of British industries. The locomotive. The first recorded steam railway journey took place on 21st February 1804 when Cornishman Richard Trevithick's Penny-a-Durham locomotive carried 10 tons of iron, 5 wagons, and 70 men the 9.75 miles from the ironworks of Penny-a-Durham to the Methyer-Cardiff Canal in 4 hours and 5 minutes. The journey had an average speed of 2.4 meters per hour. 25 years later, George Stephenson and his son Robert Stephenson designed Stephenson's rocket. This was the most advanced locomotive of its days, winning the 1829 Rainhill Trials as the only one of 5 entrants to complete the 1-mile track in Lancashire. The trails had been put on to test the argument that locomotives provided the best propulsion for the new Liverpool and Manchester Railway. The rocket's design, with its smoke chimney at the front and a separate firebox in the rear, became the template for steam locomotives for the next 150 years. Telegraph communications. On 25 July 1837, Sir William Fothergill Cooke and Charles Wheatstone successfully demonstrated the first electrical telegraph installed between Euston and Camden Town in London. The next year, they installed the system along 13 miles of Great Western Railway from Paddington to West Draytown. It was the first commercial telegraph in the world. In America, the first telegraph service opened in 1844 when telegraph wires connected Baltimore and Washington, D.C. One of the main figures behind the invention of the telegraph was the American Samuel Morse, who also went on to develop Morse code to allow the easier transmission of messages across telegraph lines. It is still used to this day. A French telegrapher, Juliette Dodou, 1848 to 1909, became a heroine of the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 when she reputedly tapped the telegraph lines being used by the Prussian military and passed the information to the French military forces. Dynamite. Dynamite was invented by Alfred Nobel, a Swedish chemist in 1860s. Prior to its invention, gunpowder, called black powder, had been used to shatter rocks and fortifications. Dynamite, however, proved stronger and safer, quickly gaining widespread use. Alfred called his new invention dynamite after the ancient Greek word dunamis, meaning powder. He did not want it to be used for military purposes, but as we all know, the explosive was soon embraced by armies across the world. The first portable camera was designed by Johann Zahn in 1685. Not much progress was made in the development for up to approximately 130 years later. Most of the attempts to make cameras in between were futile. It was not until the year 1814 when Joseph Nicephore Niepce clicked the first photograph. The credit for the invention of the first camera is therefore co-shared between Johann Zahn and Joseph Nicephore Niepce. The typewriter. In 1829, William Byrd, an American inventor, patented the first typewriter, which he called a typographer. It was dreadfully ineffective, proving slower to use than writing something out by hand. But Bird is nonetheless regarded as the father of the typewriter. The working model of the typographer, which Bird had left with the US Patent Office, was destroyed in a fire which demolished the building in 1836. Only 38 years later, in 1867, the first modern typewriter was invented by Christopher Lantham Scholes.